welcome one, welcome all. Thank you for tuning into Cedarly Radio, your guide to films playing at the Arthouse for the week of January 18th to January 24th. My name is Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing Hirokazu Kore-eda's Palme d'Or winning film, Shoplifters.
We'll also be discussing how to sell a film without spoiling anything, mid-budget films made for grown-ups, dueling documentaries, and we'll be talking Cleveland film production and great art house films of 2018 with our special guest, Mike Wendt of the Cleveland Film Commission. We always like to start off the show with the last scene first. So Dave, what's the last film you've seen?
Well, I don't know if you've seen the articles this week. There's like rival documentaries between Netflix and Hulu
for the
about
Fyre
the Fyre Festival.
Yeah,
and
Fyre.
Fyre, the a music festival that didn't happen in 2017 with Ja Rule and the now convicted.
I'd say one guy's in jail, right?
Yeah, convicted dirtbag Billy McFarland. And it is so Hulu's just came out before the Netflix one,
right?
And so I watched that last night, and it was highly entertaining, very informative. Mm-hmm. I found it a fascinating study of kind of social media marketing as well as the sort of fraud that this guy committed,
right?
And just the hilarious kind of cascading of incompetence that led to all this stuff, and these idiots that were spending $10,000 to go to some island and get down there and just see that there's literally, it's like FEMA tents, like, you know, mattresses just lying on the floor, and they thought they had rented like a $10,000 villa for the weekend. It's hilarious. You know, talk about like rich white people problems.
I was going to say, first world problems for sure, but
it is so funny. But and the film kind of presents itself comedically in some ways. You know what I mean? Like some of the
it's an absurd situation.
It's a completely absurd situation. And the Netflix documentary that's coming out, some of the executive producers are people that worked for the marketing company that helped kind of promote it. And stuff. So that's why I was reading these articles kind of about why this Hulu one doesn't have those kind of connections. And also the Hulu one actually has interviews with Billy McFarland, the guy, like who's now in jail.
Right.
So it's a little more... I don't want to say that it seems like it's probably the more legit one, because the other one is also made by an award-winning filmmaker, but the guy that did
American Movie, isn't it?
Chris Smith? Yeah, Curtis Smith or Chris Smith?
Chris Smith, yeah.
So it is that one. I'm probably going to watch that one too, just because I'm curious and I'm fascinated by the story, even though now I kind of know it all. But it is a very entertaining watch. If you have Hulu, I would recommend watching it. And it's so like new. Like if you went on IMDb as of this morning,
it's not there
that
yet,
movie wasn't even listed.
Oh, really?
It's still listed as untitled Fyre documentary project or something by the filmmakers, and has like, this is still in production. It's like, well, no, it isn't. It's actually out.
I saw a couple of critics on Twitter, I guess yesterday then, that I follow that were talking about like Hulu snuck out this documentary and what. I was like, how do you sneak out a documentary? But
they're just that is the little like, we're going to drop ours before they drop
Netflix,
theirs.
Yeah.
But just
grab a headline there.
Yep, just grab the headlines. And it was a good film, very entertaining.
It's really weird over the years, the movies that come out, like how the zeitgeist works, where you have dueling movies.
Well, last week we talked about my love of Deep Impact
versus Armageddon.
Yeah. So it does happen where there's like rival Truman Capote movies,
right?
Or these same kind of, and there was 2 Jungle Book movies that were supposed to be out basically simultaneously, but then the one got sold to Netflix and they just put it out over around Christmas, I think. The Mowgli movie or Mowgli. Mowgli. And Aaron, what was the last thing you saw?
I finally caught up with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, all right. Mm-hmm.
I don't like this movie at all.
You were not entertained and charmed by it?
Not really.
Really?
It's odd. Now, there's a mixture of things. Like, I know it's getting some awards love, and Rami Malek's great. And actually, I thought most of the acting was okay. I didn't find him to be that compelling. I'm a fan of his. I guess I should preface that, 'cause I know there's a bunch of Bohemian Rhapsody fans out there. I'm a fan of his. I've seen every episode of Mr. Robot twice. I can't wait for him to get back to the new season to do something a bit more creative and interesting and adventurous. It just... We've talked about before where like when you're doing it based on a true story with Vice, Christian Bale being, a lot of, lead actor awards contender right now for Vice. Like, it's a fine performance, but it just feels like, oh, you're doing exactly what you could see in videos, clips on YouTube or wherever archival footage of Freddie Mercury.
And
he captures it fine, but it was like they're a bit more. He just needed more depth to all of it. It just seemed like a 2-hour ad for Queen's greatest hits CD. And again, it's fine. It's not like it's a terrible worst of the year movie, but there's like a little bit of hype because it is getting some awards and consideration and whatnot. So I had that in my head going into it. I also knew it was a troubled production going into it. That Bryan Singer was MIA on set. That Rami Malek was pretty pissed because his director's not doing his job. Another director comes in to finish the job, and it felt like that to me, where it was just like vignettes of rags to riches movie cliches of a band that hits their stride. And
like I said, to me, it's a very, very slickly produced, very glossy piece of pop entertainment, and I think it succeeds on those levels. It is not any sort of hard hitting, expose on anything. It is just a very glossy, shiny thing filled with great music, and for that alone, I was entertained by it. So.
And I'm like I guess passive Queen fan. Like I'm fine with a few of their songs, but the way they even showed them writing their songs, were like, well, it's time to write another song. Hey, how about this hit? And then they just do a hit. And you're like, is that really how that worked? Because it feels like you'd still be a hit making band at this point if you could do it that way. But it actually to me felt a little bit like Straight Outta Compton a couple years ago. People were that was a bit more critically praised. I didn't care for it as much, just kind of knowing the genre and knowing the band, but not personally, but their history. I was like, you left out a lot of interesting stuff.
Well, in both of those things, the people that are featured in the film were behind the scenes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
So
which I think is the problem with it. It's a bit more like we're writing our own myths here, but you left out a lot of the stuff that makes it a more well-rounded, deeper look at what's going on.
You don't see all the warts,
right? Yeah.
Which is why for that Fyre documentary, the fact that one of the guys who's executive producer was part of the Jerry Media company that produced or that marketed it. That sort of taints a little bit, even if the filmmakers try to say that they're objective.
Right.
You're not. I mean, for the Straight Outta Compton, whenever you have Ice Cube's son playing him in the movie,
and they're all producers, and you're
like,
had a hand in the script, and
I'm sure that it's probably not going to show you all the bad parts of their personalities.
Yeah. Well, on to Arthouse news for this week. We did open On the Basis of Sex. Did you catch that?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
This one, it brought up a topic that we kind of mentioned a little bit over the I was going to say years, over the months of doing the show so far.
It just seems like years. Aaron.
It does feel like years. There's that mid-budget movie for grown-ups that just doesn't really get made that often anymore, because usually it goes to Netflix now, and the studios want to make the big international co-production, Avengers, Marvel, Star Wars kind of stuff. And this is one of those movies that I feel like hits that mark of, it's not a huge budget. It's got solid performances, decent story, actually very engaging, compelling story.
A decent story?
Decently told is what I meant. Decently told. Very inspirational story, decently told and portrayed, I think, on screen. But people come out just it doesn't have to be the film of the year. It can just be a good movie.
Yeah.
And people are coming out, actually most people are saying it's a great movie and they really love it. And it's very engaging and very fun. But I was like, that is that type of genre that you don't get that often at movies anymore. But people still respond to it. Kind of note within especially box office this week, a lot of the reporting was, it's kind of the slump. The Arthouse wasn't as hot as it's been. It was like we had a great weekend. I don't know, it's the micro versus the macro there, I guess. But
I think it's just because there isn't one of those movies that in New York and LA that is selling out.
That's what it was.
Giant, iconic art houses. Nothing is selling out the ArcLight or the why am I blanking?
Film Forum or something. The Angelica or something.
The Angelica. Thank you. That's what I was trying to think of in New York.
We did get a very thoughtful email from a listener, James, about spoilers that we wanted to address, because we'd mentioned a certain scene in Vice, and then he went to see it, and it did kind of rob.
I did.
You did. That's right. I'm innocent in this. You mentioned it, and then he said it kind of took a little bit of the punch out of that scene in the movie, and we never really addressed spoilers on the show just yet, I guess.
And I can see that the point that I don't think that that's a traditional spoiler when we're talking about just sort of some stylistic things.
Right.
This is what he seemed like the things that we were pointing out.
Robs a little bit of the punch of that joke in the movie, though.
That is true. That once you know that joke is coming, it might be less impactful. But and I think that it's hard to, when you're talking about these kind of things, we try not to give away important plot points and things like that, but we are having thoughtful conversations about the films and kind of the techniques of them. And so traditionally, I don't know that talking about film technique is necessarily a spoiler, but we'll be a little more mindful of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you will.
I will. Maybe. Wait till I tell you the entire plot of Shoplifters.
I was saying, we did joke at the when we were talking about Bookshop, the adaptation from last year about aliens at the end and the dragon burning on the bookshelf, which was not true, obviously, but
that's my
fake spoilers there.
That's my standard fake movie ending when I go, and when the aliens showed up at the end, I was really surprised.
One last bit of Arthouse news we have this week. The award season is, ramping up here. I guess it peaks with the Academy Awards, which we'll be discussing the nominations next week. This past weekend, the Critics' Choice Awards were unveiled, issued. Is that? Do they do a ceremony?
They do,
I didn't really look that up.
It's a televised thing. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's a big network show.
I get so much awards information just with Twitter on my phone that I was like, do they do a ceremony? I don't know if
they
do
sure do. Yeah, they have a red carpet. It's not Fashion Week.
Right.
Although in a way it is. So, they get all the stars out there and they go up and they accept their awards and make lovely little speeches. And this year, the big winner was sort of one of the main frontrunners, which was Roma, certainly one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but Alfonso Cuarón, who pretty much, I would say, is a sure thing to win Best Director this year.
It seems like it.
Yeah, he won for director and he also won for cinematography. And I'm trying to think if it's ever happened for the Academy Awards where someone won cinematography and director. It would be very interesting if he gets nominated and won both of those things. I think that would be a first.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah,
that'd be a first.
I can't think of anyone that's ever done that. So that would be an awesome first if that happens. But of course, that's pure speculation.
Right.
And for the acting things, we talked about Christian Bale. He won for Vice. So I think he's probably one of the big frontrunners after winning the Golden Globe as well as this.
Was Ethan Hawke nominated in this one?
Oh,
I don't remember the nominations, but I feel like he was.
I think he was.
Yeah, because the critics were going for him.
Because First Reformed did get Best Screenplay for this, and so Paul Schrader's getting a little love there, and hopefully he will next week when the Oscar nominations come out. And our girl Glenn Close, she won, as well as we had a tie. Well, we didn't; they did between with Glenn Close and Lady Gaga. So there was a tie for Best Actress. So
it does seem to be a lot of commentary this year for the awards circuit for the awards season is there's no clear front runners. There's no like out and out. But it's like I kind of feel like there are, maybe is it that it's taking shape now?
There's a couple that I would say are front runners. Like Alfonso Cuarón is absolutely front runner for Best Director, but I don't know that Roma is necessarily the Best Picture front runner.
It's true. Yeah,
it's one of those weird years that because people love Bohemian Rhapsody so much, if it gets nominated, maybe that'll win. Who knows? And then Aaron can just start shaking his fist at the TV.
I do that a lot.
I know you probably
standard
do. Or
I'm sorry, for me.
at the Twitter feed.
Yes,
yeah.
Stupid Twitter feed.
Mm-hmm.
There's the same kind of names popping up though. Like you said, Christian Bale, Vice. You've also got Mahershala Ali for Green Book, supporting actor. You've got Regina King, If Beale Street Could Talk, Best Supporting Actress. Those seem to be the solid. All the different organizations that have issued, mostly critics right now, but also the Golden Globes, it is matching up there. So it does seem to be like the race is shaping up to have some pretty clear front runners. I'm sure you were pretty happy because you've been championing it since we hit record. I think the first time that Elsie Fisher, they have a Best Young Actor Actress category, and she won for 8th grade. As well as I really think this is one of those, the Academy should add this, the ensemble category, because there's just been so many times where great acting, and I bring that up because The Favorite won Best Acting Ensemble this year at the Critics' Choice Awards, where I remember there was a discussion when Spotlight happened. All the individual performances were very good in Spotlight, I thought. But there was no clear, who's the best actor, actress, are you all supporting? How does that work?
They all were a team.
And when they all do come together is that, in one ensemble for one particular movie, there is sort of an art to that and getting everybody working together and clicking just the right way as well. So,
well, much like the Golden Globes, the Critics' Choice also have genre awards. So they also have Best Action Film and Best Comedy. So they had Best, it's interesting that Christian Bale actually won 2 because he won Best Actor. And he won Best Comedy Actor. So he won 2 for the exact same performance. So that's something you don't see very often.
That is true.
And I like that Olivia Colman won for The Favorite for Best Comedy. So she continues to, it's like there's definitely 3 women that are going to get nominated for Best Actress, Glenn Close, Lady Gaga, and Olivia Colman.
Yeah.
Those are locked.
Right.
So, and it'll be interesting to see because all 3 of them I could see winning. I think that one is not a clear front runner because poor Glenn Close would be great if she finally won an award, but she's been the bridesmaid so many times that, I hope if she doesn't win, I hope she just causes a scene. I think that'd be awesome. Some sort of career-ending moment.
Right.
I just wonder if
Glenn Close goes out with a bang.
Yeah, just go crazy.
All right, so your nightmare scenario then would be Toni Collette is actually given the award for Best Actress. Glenn Close loses it, attacks Toni Collette on stage.
That wouldn't be my not my nightmare situation. That would be my dream. I think that'd be amazing.
Because we've probably been singing the praises of Toni Collette
Toni Collette
and she's been ignored.
should win, but
at the expense of Glenn Close.
I would love to see. That would be fantastic. That would be great television.
That would be great television.
Legendary television.
And mentioning especially box office reporting this weekend, the general nationwide commentary was, not much went at the Arthouse, but noticed the movie we're opening this week, which we're going to get to right now, Shoplifters, is already at $2 million at the domestic box office here in the United States, which is what domestic box office means, which is...
That actually includes Canada as well.
North America?
Yes.
North American box office. All right, there we go. Which is a great sign for a foreign movie that's finally, after all these weeks, making it to us here in Cleveland. That that isn't necessarily a benchmark that a lot of foreign movies get to $2 million, which not only I think shows that it's a great movie because it's a highly talented master filmmaker, but also it's connecting with audiences in a very deep and affecting way. So that is our new film this week is Shoplifters from director Hirokazu Kore-eda. He is the director of a few other films we'll mention here in a minute. And this one, particular Shoplifters, focuses on a father and son who come across a little girl out in the freezing cold. They kind of adopt her into their family, and they take care of her after learning the hardships she has faced. It's a very poor family. It's set in Japan during the after effects of the economic collapse of 2008, and they live together in a fairly happy existence until some unforeseen incidents reveal hidden pasts and secrets, which we will not be talking about. You have to come see the film in order to see those. So, Dave, have you seen many films from Kore-eda?
I have seen kind of the ones that everyone talks about, like the ones we have here, like Father, Like Son. I've seen and Still Walking. Those are beautiful, wonderful movies. And so is Shoplifters. It didn't quite make my top films of the year, but it easily could be on there and deserves a slot. I mean, it's a beautiful little movie, and I know I always refer to things as little movies, but that's because when I say that, I mean because it's a quiet film with quiet spaces, and it's got these great moments, and when they find the little girl right at the beginning, and take her in, you're sort of like from an American mindset, you always want to think of the worst things, like, oh, this isn't good for, what's wrong with these? These are criminals taking in this little girl, but no, they're just generous, nice people. And when they go to take her back to her home and they realize how terrible her life is, they go, oh no, we need to.
You might be better off,
here. So, and it's just a really wonderful movie. So I hope people come out and see it here on the theater.
He's let me see if you can guess some themes here. I'll give you the quick quick kind of couple sentence pitch of each one. So Like Father, Like Son was my favorite of his so far. I have not seen Shoplifters yet. This is one where there's a workaholic business guy who finds out that the son he's been raising, I think is about 6 years old, it was switched at birth in the hospital, and the hospital's correcting their mistake. So, new son, in with a biological son.
Right, drama
and
ensues,
so what makes a father, family.
Father, yes.
After the Storm is a great one as well. A gentleman, a father, learns that his dad has passed away, and then he wants to reconnect with his son and ex-wife, and so goes about trying to do that. And Still Walking is a family gathering for like a remembrance ritual of some sort.
Right.
It's like a theme popping up there at all.
Absolutely. And just like, I think he's kind of frequently compared to Ozu,
very much.
Japanese filmmaker, who did, again, these wonderful family dramas.
Contemplative,
and he absolutely has his place right along that. He's an amazing filmmaker, and again, it's a beautiful movie, so please come out and see it.
I wanted to point out, too, this is one of those, in my head, I always think of like true auteur filmmakers because he's writing his own movies, he's editing his own movies, he's directing his own movies. I assume he's also probably producing his own movies. These are things that he wants to, stories that he's compelled to tell, and he wants them in a very specific way. When you're not only writing it from the beginning, but editing it at the final, at the end of the production, that's somebody trying to exert, auteur level control, I think, over all the stories they're telling.
He has a vision in his mind, and he is going to make sure that it is the clearest version of that comes to the audience.
And not to totally jump the gun, because having not seen Shoplifters yet, I'm very much looking forward to catching that in the theater. His next movie, he's already shooting right now, is called The Truth. It's based on a play he wrote like years and years ago. I think he said like 10, 15 years ago, that was never produced or anything, that he's going to France for this one. So it's the first time working outside of his native Japan. And when you go to France, what actors, actresses do you want to see in a French movie? That he's directing.
Is he directing Isabelle Huppert?
Close.
I'm blanking.
He's got Julie Binoche.
And
he's got Catherine Deneuve.
Oh, there you go. Catherine Deneuve is who
French royalty when you go for actresses there. And then also he's got my man Ethan Hawke in there, so that's fun to have in the mix as well.
And this is like your dream project.
I know. I can't wait for it. It's Julie Binoche and Ethan Hawke are fairly age-appropriate married couple, which is also nice to see on screen, who are returning to France from the United States when Binoche's mother, Catherine Deneuve, a well-known actress, publishes her tell-all biography. So again, family secrets come out, and he's got those themes that he deals with quite well.
That's great. It's always interesting whenever someone... I'm sure he wrote it in Japanese and then was translating it into English and French and setting it in a different place. That's fascinating to me.
I found that info in a interview he did at the Cannes Film Festival because, as you mentioned, this movie won the Palme d'Or at the 2018 Cannes Film Festival. And they asked him, like, how are you going to approach directing this movie since you don't speak French? And he's like, I'll figure that out on set. We'll see how it goes. I was like,
there you go.
He knows what he's doing, I guess, or he just has confidence in his abilities. And
I can understand how people can do that, how you direct someone and know if they're giving the performance
like
that you want,
or something.
You know what I mean? Necessarily, if you don't have the nuance of the language,
right?
That's fascinating to me. So, I mean, and the fact that some of them they can pull it off, that's amazing.
I wanted to plug too, since we're opening a Japanese awards contender and a Palme d'Or winner this week. We've got a lot of foreign films on the slate, which I am really psyched for. We've got Cold War opening February 1st. We've got Capernaum opening on the 15th. We've got Never Look Away. We've got Everybody Knows. We've got Birds of Passage. So come on out and get your World Cinema passports stamped at the theater over the next couple months.
Very excited for Birds of Passage.
Yes.
That one, if you haven't watched the trailer for Birds of Passage yet, check it out. It's the people behind Embrace of the Serpent.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
And it is, it looks amazing. So I'm very excited to see that one.
And we will be right back with our Cedarly 3 list this week, Great Arthouse Films of 2018, with Mike Wendt of the Cleveland Film Commission.
And this week we have one special event coming up. We have encore screenings of Peter Jackson's documentary They Shall Not Grow Old, and we're going to be playing both shows in 3D on January 21st at 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock. I'd highly encourage you to come see it. It is truly a big screen 3D experience, and not every film that's done in 3D needs to be done in 3D, but the whole point of this project was that he took this archival footage from World War I and digitally restored it, colorized it, added sound by having actors and professionals like read their lips and give voices to these people, and also added a 3D element to it, and it's just an amazing achievement. And these screenings are part of the Fathom National Events, and they include an introduction by Peter Jackson as well as a 30-minute making of documentary that follows the film that is incredibly informative about the whole process.
So stay through the credits. Stay seated.
And stay for the documentary afterwards, because the amount of work and the incredible attention to detail, like him traveling to Belgium to
get the right color of grass
the exact color of grass. I mean, like it's
firing period specific weapons, to get the sound effects right and everything.
It's very, very, very labor intensive. So yeah, it's well worth seeing, and I hope you come out and see it.
It sounds weird to say that the restored World War I colorized 3D, ified movie is a must see on the big screen, but it is really true. That is an accurate sentence, and it needs to be experienced.
The shows that we had before, several of them had sold out, so that's why there are some additional encore shows. So if you're interested in seeing that, you might want to get your tickets in advance in case we have more sold out shows.
So in this week's Cedarly 3 section, we're continuing our 2018 wrap-up by inviting in different people from the Cleveland film community to give their analysis of the year that was 2018. And this week we have Mike Wendt, who's the production coordinator for the Cleveland Film Commission, amongst many other talents over the years throughout the Cleveland film community. So hello, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm a huge fan of the show. Listen every week. So
thanks, Mike.
Hey, happy to do it.
Compliments are an automatic invite back on the show, Mike.
But yeah, so I work with the Film Commission right now, and oftentimes I'm scouting for projects that are looking to come into the area, and also just trying to build up Cleveland as a film community. Just really encourage people that they can do anything here if they wanted to.
Is that doing a lot of like film location scouting? Have you noticed at all like putting together a good portfolio or showing people the diversity that Cleveland has besides just abandoned buildings and
absolutely, yeah.
Really, people are like, oh wow, like you're getting good reactions from people.
Yes, oftentimes we get great reactions from directors because a lot of times there might be a producer or somebody involved who was from the area and mentions it to the director, and a lot of times people are not from this area. They're just like, why Cleveland? And when sometimes we present the photos to them, they're just consistently surprised, like, oh, we can pretty much cover almost all our bases.
Nice.
Yeah.
What films in the, let's say, like the recent year or two have you been around or worked on or been part of coaxing to come to Cleveland to shoot that people may have heard of?
Sure. I think in the immediate, White Boy Rick was a film that I worked in the locations department. I was really involved with My Friend Dahmer, and really the first one that got me into the locations was Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which was up to that point had worked on very small things.
Right.
So working on something really large.
That was a little bigger.
Yeah. It was basically a well-oiled machine, but getting trained in that was really a good step to the next directions.
I feel like that would be, on a personal level, like I would be very intimidated with that side, like the Marvel machine rolls into town. And be like, oh God, what's going on?
Right.
But really, a lot of what happened on that set happens on all sets.
Yeah.
So it's just
the
a lot
economy
more
of scale.
people.
That's it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. You actually have enough people to wrangle the crowds that you need to wrangle, as opposed to doing a night shoot on a little indie. That you don't have the people to help control it.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to say, I think the quality seems to be going up in films shooting in Cleveland because for the longest time, we moved here as a family in '88 in Cleveland, and for the longest time going up, even off to college, it was like, Double Dragon shot here down in the flats.
Right.
And it seems like it's been going up, or at least diversity of projects, at least, too, coming to Cleveland recently.
Yeah, one project that I'm really excited about that's going to come out this year is premiering at the Sundance Film Festival. It's called Native Son.
Oh, nice.
And A24 has already picked it up.
Great.
Sweet.
So I'm sure that'll play here at the
then.
Cedar Lee. And Maddie Libatique, who shot A Star Is Born,
and
also
Venom.
shot that film.
Requiem.
So it's that, I think, is going to be one of the things that really shows like, hey, like you can do a kind of prestige project here. In Cincinnati also, has gotten some great films with Old Man and the Gun and, even Killing of the Sacred Deer, which I know you mentioned was one of your favorites,
Love
Dave.
it.
Yep.
And, so just really building the overall profile of Ohio, I think is the goal.
It seems like it's on its
Awesome.
way.
Yeah.
And we know you're a big movie fan as well, and you see a lot of movies here at the Cedar Lee. So we wanted to invite you on to kind of talk about your 3 favorite films that you saw here at the Cedar Lee in 2018. So do you have your little list?
Yes. So I'm going to do a little bit of a cheat, but first I want to give an honorable mention to Roma.
Oh, right.
I thought it was beautiful. It was almost every shot was like a painting.
Yeah.
And I also just want to thank you guys for what you do here to whatever the powers that be work with Netflix to ensure that you could see it on the big
Netflix
screen.
has been a continual challenge, and luckily it was only because Alfonso Cuarón has enough muscle that I think that they've been like, all right, we better do what he wants to do, and it paid off. So
Hopefully it's the start of a beautiful working relationship.
yes, hopefully.
Yes.
Because I'm really worried about that Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
I thought one of the things with that film is I've heard some criticisms of people saying that it's not a lot happens, but I really thought that a lot of the, Cleo, as you watch her go on, like the mundane things are almost beautiful in the way that, she lives a simple life, but she makes an impact on all the people that are in her life.
Yeah.
So that's the honorable mention. I would say I'll go with number 3 because this is the year of the doc, as you guys have mentioned on the show, but I really enjoyed 3 Identical Strangers.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about the story going into it, and I think for any of listeners who have not seen it, avoid reading anything, but I thought the first hour of that film was like one of the most enjoyable, entertaining things. As it gets into more of the story, it's like kind of mind-blowing as it goes along, but I thought that first hour was just such a fun film.
It almost plays kind of thriller-esque, because you're just like, wait, because again, I went into it not knowing anything about that story, Which also, it has a great trailer where it intrigues you without spoiling a lot of the revelations, other than like, hey, these three, I almost said twins, I keep doing that. These three triplets find each other after being separated at birth, and you're like, what? That's crazy. And then when you see
then you find out how crazy it is.
Yeah, luckily there's so many more revelations that like that you could just, hook people with that in the trailer, and then all the other revelations that come afterwards, you're just kind of like your jaw's on the floor for 40 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just great. My number 2 would be, once again, I'm going with the theme here, is like, this is one of the years of the female director. So I would say You Were Never Really Here is a movie that I remember coming here. I might be in the same auditorium that I came to see it, but I was just kind of riveted from the get-go. And I also just admired that it was a tight movie. It was like 89 minutes or something like that. And I just give a lot of credit to people who can make a movie in 89 minutes and really like make a mark on you.
And I know that was one of Aaron's favorites, and I just finally saw it. I missed it when we had it here at the theater, so I watched it, I think, last week or maybe the week before, and yeah, it was great. And didn't quite make my top 10, but it's a great movie. It's in my honorable mentions. It's true. That absolutely affects things. We talked about that with the corpse. Let the Corpses Tan.
Right.
And how if I had seen that in the theater, I'm sure I would have had a much greater appreciation than watching it on my laptop as a little online screener link.
Because that was another Johnny Greenwood score, I think, on You Never Really Hear, that it was one of those in the theater, similar to Mandy almost, like you just sort of felt the soundscape of that movie just wrap around you at all the right moments.
And I think it's really a shame that it's not getting any awards attention for Joaquin Phoenix's performance, or even for Lynn Ramsey. I thought it was just a really well-directed movie. So I don't know why sometimes things go like that.
I don't know.
Meanwhile, Bohemian Rhapsody is the best drama.
Right.
90 people out in Hollywood.
And then my number 1 is just a movie that I saw a couple times actually in the theater. It just kind of blew me away, and it's Paul Schrader's First Reformed. It's just a movie that it's a challenging film. I know it's not for everybody, but I thought Ethan Hawke's performance was quite outstanding.
Speaking of being overlooked too right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the major award categories, the critics are all in love with him in that role, but sorry.
Yeah, but no, it's just, it's one of those, having got to work with Paul Schrader before on a movie that was not as well received.
That was Dog Eat Dog?
Yeah, Dog Eat Dog. And for him to make this one.
Starring Mandy's own Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mandy could have easily made my list as well, but yeah, I don't know. I just really love that film, and every time I watch it, I get something new out of it.
Paul Schrader's that director too that I read his film criticism and his writing. I'm a huge fan of his stuff, and his Transcendence on Film it's a thick, dense academic book, but it's really rewarding to kind of just pick up little bits and pieces here and read it. And it always bugged me. I was like, why aren't you making great, like, meditative, like, oh, thank you.
Now he finally did.
Yeah.
He did it.
Like, combine all that, like, great criticism, and he's a teacher as well. Like, you know how to do this. Why are you doing these other movies here? But finally. Yeah.
Well, excellent choices, Mike.
Thank you.
Is there anything coming up that that you're excited to see here at the Cedar Lee, either that we're playing right now that you haven't seen, or that you know that's coming up in the near future?
Besides Native Son.
Sure. There is. I think it was. Oh, Cold War.
Cold War
is something that I'm really excited for. I think that filmmaker is. I admire what he does.
Pavel Pawlikowski.
Yeah,
I believe I'm saying it right.
I've also just liked this.
Sounds good to me.
I like this trend of including First Reform in mid-90s, all these movies that are shooting in like
the 133.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for some reason that kind of geeks me out in a good way.
I think
it's a different use of frame too. Like
it is.
Said.
Yeah. When you watch Cold War, I was lucky enough to get to see it at the trade screening a while back. And since we live in Cleveland and we have to, we're at the mercy of the platform release strategy. And as they're waiting for the Oscar nominations and things like that, it'll be opening here, I think, February 1st. And it is absolutely a movie that you should see in the theater. It's a beautiful movie. It's gorgeous looking, and it's just a very powerful movie.
We got my 975 for sure.
Yeah. So. How like uses like negative space a lot.
Yeah,
with the photography.
Yeah,
so.
it's because we were talking about I'm going to mess up the name, the Fibonacci, the principle, the visual
the Fibonacci spiral,
and how that's such a kind of standard of aesthetic that it's a most pleasant kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he almost frames against that. You know what I mean? And so it's true when you get used to a certain kind of pleasing aesthetic that whenever you someone breaks that, it draws your attention more. And I think that he intentionally does that a lot in this movie.
As long as you're doing it with intention and purpose, not just
not just I don't know how to frame a movie.
That's a different thing.
Yeah, no, it's it's an interesting use of space in the film, and not everything. I mean, certainly there's a lot of it that is just framed kind of conventionally, but there's several scenes where you're just like, that's interesting. That everything's kind of happening along this kind of plane of the frame instead of using all of it. So, yeah, I enjoyed that.
Cool. Well, Mike, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your best of the year. Is there any place digitally or online, Cleveland Film Commission, or you want to direct people to?
Yeah, clevelandfilm.com. And I'm on the social media a lot. You can reach out to me if anybody has any questions, or maybe if you have a location that you think that we should scout, I would be happy to do that.
Twitter handle or anything you want
to? NMike1 on Twitter.
And also, I'm a big fan of the Letterboxd app, which is how film geeks kind of circulate. Where did you get to see that? How good was that one? So, find them on there as well.
Yeah, I always I look at yours because you always have interesting choices on there. So.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a that's insult euphemism, but that's fine.
Interesting choices.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, you have interesting taste in movies.
Say, that means I do have children. I watch movies. So yeah.
That's what. Well, when we talk about our last scene every week on this show, sometimes it's always a little surprising.
It is. Yeah.
So that's all we can say. All right. Well, thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
thank you, guys.
Join us on next week's episode when we will be discussing John S. Baird's Stan and Ollie, the Oscar nominations, and the overlooked films of 2018 with special guest John Ewing of the Cleveland Cinematheque. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedarly Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.